So, hello everybody, and welcome to this very last minute, but very fabulous animation of the sinking of the Britannic. So, this is the second time recording this because we had a little bit of a hiccup at the beginning, but hopefully, second time lucky, fingers crossed. We all get through this actually, but we've got very positive enthusiasm because we got this lovely animation which is set by Tony of the channel T and Me, and Tony has joined us now. Tony, hello.
Hello.
You all right?
Yeah. You?
Yeah, not too bad, thank you. And then also we have DK. Hello, DK.
Hello.
You all right?
Yep, just me. Just screen recording this for the first time.
Oh, you're a media executive now, aren't you?
Hopefully it goes well. That's all I have to say.
Fingers crossed. So today, Tony is actually showing us his animation of the real-time sinking of the Britannic. And Tony, from what I understand, it took you 2 months to actually put this all together.
Yes, I believe I started in either late July or early September. Or not July, August.
So probably like 2 to 3 months then, I gather.
Yeah.
Right, okay. So we have seen it once, but we found that it was really, really good, but hopefully second time lucky. Even though we had a bit of a hiccup, we will just dive into it so we can get a little bit of more of an understanding. And there was some new research that came up recently that I'm going to be talking about while we're doing the voiceover anyway. So I think without further ado, we will get started. So Tony, whenever you are ready.
Here we are.
Okay, so it is the 21st of November 1916, and the HMHS Britannic is sailing towards the Kia Channel. And early in the day, she had a little bit of a routine. So the doctors and nurses got up at 6:30 a.m. Well, except for one who slept over late, and there were a few of them who were just coming down to breakfast. Right, let's start the animation, shall we? Right, so it is early in the morning, like I said before, and the Britannic is making her way towards the Kia Channel to drop some soldiers off at a hospital stationary ship just nearby. So, DK, can you tell us what happens next?
Well, as the HMHS Britannic is sailing through the Aegean Sea, we have to remember that SMU-73 laid down mines, and a week prior before the Britannic sailed out there, a French troop ship named the SS Vertigala happened to sink near the island of Kia, and within 20 minutes afterwards, a secondary explosion actually tore the ship in two, and it still lies upright to this very day. And upon learning about it, there was only one casualty from that whole ordeal. So now here we are, back in the familiar waters of the Aegean Sea near the island of Kia. And just like that...
There we go, it's exploded.
And just like that, mine detonation. So what actually did happen was that the hull flexed the ship's hull, and it actually jammed a watertight door that is between Boiler Room 6 and the Fireman's Passage. And just like it says also the Marconi cables, now for the Marconi cables runs from mast to mast, and it goes right down into the silent room. So basically that means if they do send out distress signals, that means they could be able to send out distress signals, but the problem is you're not going to be able to receive any replies whatsoever. So basically, you're going to be talking blind.
And there we go. We are just in the starting process of the sinking. Now, Tony, you said last time, when we recorded for the first time, about the smoke from the funnels. Can you explain what you said last time about it?
Right, so I've had a lot of people say to me that comparing the smoke to ships like Titanic, the smoke seems too dark. which was done intentionally because earlier, before the sinking, stokers were shoving lots of coal into the boilers, which would have led to the being a lot darker.
And then, of course, as well, like Titanic, Britannic had 4 funnels, but one of them was a dummy, and it was used for other purposes as well.
Correct. The other purposes was basically used for ventilation. Like, take Titanic and Olympic, for example. They actually have ventilation shafts that either go from the kitchens down on D deck, or the fireplaces in either the first class smoking room. So basically, the 4th funnel is there for looks, because the public eye kind of view a 4 funnel ship. The more funnels, the more better. And of course, I'm looking at you, SS Great Eastern, that is sitting up on the top of my shelf.
Nice. And so that's the SS Great Eastern, your histobrick model.
Yeah, the SS Great Eastern actually has 5 funnels, but one of them actually shot up like a rocket. Anyway, I ended up traveling back in time to the 1800s about that.
That's true, really.
Right.
No, we are just getting into a place where the Britannic is starting to list to starboard now.
Now, at this point...
Oh, no, go on. Sorry, Tony, go on.
Alright, at this point, we're going to see Britannic taking this same space as Titanic did in her first 10 minutes of sinking. And we can see the, what are they?
She's just slowing down a little bit, and that's when a lot of people start to panic, because Nurse Ada Garland, she's going to be coming up in a future video, but I recently read her diary, and that's not really open to the public domain, but I took a read of it before we were recording this animation, and she said that when she was sitting down to her breakfast along with a few other people, nurses and the Boy Scouts and the doctors, in the dining saloon, she can remember saying that everyone was panicking, but the stewards remained calm, saying, "Don't panic, I'm sure we'll run into a barge," but of course they didn't. And by the time that everyone was trying to get up and get ready, because a lot of people started to actually get to the lifeboat straight away. Ada can remember that when she went down to her cabin to collect her life jacket from her cabin, as like so many nurses and passengers did as well, the wounded, the doctors and nurses, she said she can remember seeing the grand staircase for one last time, and she had a premonition saying that that it was the last time she would see everything, because she suddenly knew that the Britannic was going to sink. And of course, as well, at the same time, a lot of people have been going in together. And before the Britannic struck the mine, and this was like before the 21st of November, they had a series of lifeboat drills which would take place every single morning during the trip. And these drills will often include a sound siren telling people to go to the lifeboats, and the crew members would be assigned to be at which lifeboat they at and to assist the passengers and the doctors and nurses and the crew as well. But of course, they knew that by now, even though they know the drill and what's going on, there was a lot of panic involved. And as we can see in the animation, 2 lifeboats have been lowered without the captain's orders.
And one more additional input. They actually call them muster stations now these days, and they're actually still practiced on ships today.
Yeah, that's very true. Yes, that's a really good point there, DK.
No, with the camera angles, you can't really see, but while animating this, I could notice how close that lifeboat came to hitting the propellers, but they just got extremely lucky and managed to avoid them.
That is
But
true, though.
we don't know which lifeboat was launched. The first one. Yeah. And then we can see like 2 more lifeboats have been waiting to lower, and of course a second one was going to be about to lower, but that was the first one that was to witness the you know what that's coming. But I won't give it away because we will show it later in the animation as well, so I won't give too much away. And as you can see, really, that the passengers, some of them are remaining calm, but there was one surviving account is that there were some passengers that were panicking, but some of them were really calm. But one of the most panicky passengers was the matron, and that was the leading nurse who actually looked after the nurses. And some of the patients who were in bed, they had trouble getting up to the boat deck, and it was just a bit of a balanced situation, or there are a bit more imbalances, but who knows really. But all we know is that there was a little bit of panic, a little bit of more calm. And at that point as well, that when the ship hit the mine, the captain, he was just about to have his bath, and throughout the whole sinking, he didn't wear his uniform. He only wore his pajamas. And not long earlier, it's been said that after waking up early, he went down to inspect the engine room. And then by the time he got up, he was about to have a bath after breakfast, and then the mine imploded. So, very interesting. Because I only just found like the inspection of the engine room out at the time of this recording on the day, but it's really interesting to see what the captain got up to and what his actions were at the time, even though that some people didn't really respond to his actions when it came to the lifeboats. And then you can see some of them, they're just dangling in midair. Tony, can you tell us what happens with the lifeboats in the animation?
Well, most of the lifeboats I have animated. Some of them I don't board them simply because they weren't launched in the sinking, although I do believe that there may have been a few passengers who would have switched over. Anyways, around 30 minutes into the animation, when the ship comes to stop, you're going to be able to see most of the lifeboats being launched. I don't really have too much research on which order they were launched, but I've used research from a few friends of mine and a few other videos. And you're going to see these 2 lifeboats. I don't recall what number they are, but the first 2 lifeboats on the port side, those are eventually going to be launched. And I don't know if you want me to say what's going to happen or not, but
They would be lifeboats 2 and 4.
all right.
And
number 4 especially, and is the most important one.
No, unfortunately, I couldn't really get rigging on the lifeboats. I had made a few attempts, but with the animation, I just did not have the time, and it was a very complicated process.
Already, because it must be very hard to get the details right with the animation, isn't it?
Yes. Also, I would like to thank a few people. I'd like to thank I'm not sure if you've heard of him. This guy, WIZ on YouTube. I guess we're friends. He helped me a lot with the visual effects on the real time. For example, if you see the foam and the wake, he helped me a lot with that. So, thanks to him.
You can see it's really well done and it's very realistic. You can tell it's just like the real open sea there. That's really cool.
I also want to point one thing out. Right now during the sinking, the open portholes, I'm not sure if you actually did notice it, it's actually having an effect on the list. Now you have to keep this in mind, even though the Britannic does have a double hull and higher bulkheads, it still does not stop the open portholes accelerating the flooding. After the result of the Titanic disaster in 1912, they actually already implemented the bulkheads to be much higher than what the Titanic had previously. And of course, with the open portholes, which basically they were open because this will take this in consideration. This was before proper ventilation, proper air conditioning. So basically, all that musty air needs to go somewhere. So what do? They went down, opened up some portholes near the bow, and then of course, Britannic hit a mine, and basically what that open window is going to do is basically bypass the bulkheads and just bring the Britannic down even much more further.
And the portholes were ordered to be left open, from what I understand anyway, because the nurses were told to be left open by the doctors. I could be wrong. My Queen's English is not great today. I could be wrong, but I don't know yet for sure, but this is just what I heard. And I apologise if I ramble and stamble a lot, really, because you know me, I am quite bad when I'm improvising. Now, there were people on the poop deck. Now, Tony, can you explain a bit more about that?
Now, on the poop deck, there weren't really. Majority of the people on the poop deck would have just been panic stokers and crew members. You wouldn't really see any nurses or maids or anybody on this poop deck, really.
So you'll probably get stokers up there like Arthur John Priest and Archie Jaw, and they were infamous for sailing on the Titanic as well, and both of them survived. So they must have been up there too, because you can imagine the reality of the two of them especially, and because some of them might have had like PTSD from the Titanic disaster, and with the sinking of the Britannic, it just probably brought memories back for them, and they were just panicking.
Now, in a few moments, I believe we're about to see what's going to happen to lifeboats 2 and 4.
And the first one, we believe that was launched first, was lifeboat number 2?
Yes, that's correct.
I got it wrong first time, really, so second time I got it right. Yay!
There you go.
There you go.
Now, I don't know who's on the number 2 lifeboat, but number 4, we definitely know who was on lifeboat number 4, but we'll get round to that in a minute when lifeboat number 4 comes up. So, number 2 was the first victim in the sea, but you'll probably see why in the animation in a minute.
Here we are.
And there it is already.
So lifeboat number 2 is caught in the ship's wake and is sucked into the propellers. Now, because of the strong turning from the propellers, it's pulling the lifeboat towards the propeller, and these people have no chance to try to think. They had to react as quickly as they can. Otherwise, this would happen. And just like that, that happened.
Geez, every time I watch this animation over, it really stops. The ship really went down.
Like scary when you think about it, really, because out of all the people that were on board, only 30 lives were lost, and most of the lives, not even all of them, if not most, all died because of the propellers, because the lifeboats weren't launched under Captain Bartlett's orders.
No, I believe at this point, if I'm not incorrect, we're going to start seeing water in the interior areas of F deck in the forward areas.
Yep, so as you put there, Tony, several ships were on their way to rescue the Britannic, and that happened when the Marconi wires snapped, or prior before that. DK, you know about this information quite well. Can you explain more about it?
Yeah, basically, what Marconi is a radio telegram, and basically the only way you transmit is with dots and dashes of Morse code. Now, take it back to Titanic in 1912, when they had to transmit out a CQD distress call. About every ship, including Cape Race, was able to receive it. But however, one problem though, you gotta have sufficient power, or else if you're going to be losing electricity, that power will actually shrink down, which will basically eliminate any stations from having to hear you. And I'm not sure if anybody knows this, but there's the island of Kia in the background.
Oh yeah, definitely, because it wasn't too far away from the sinking position, but later on in the sinking, Captain Bartlett tries to beach the ship to get to the island, but sadly, as we all know, she won't make it, and he tried to attempt it twice. So it's 8:32 a.m. now, and we're seeing that lifeboat number 4 is about to be lowered quite soon. And it's about that time, just a few minutes before, because at 8:35 a.m. it is believed that Captain Bartlett finally gave the orders for the lifeboats to be lowered. And lifeboat number 4 was the third lifeboat that was lowered, not under orders, but it was the second one to meet the propellers. Now, in that lifeboat is 2 Titanic survivors, Violet Jessup and Arthur John Priest. And I did 2 videos covering their lives, and I got Violet's interview of the Britannic, because she did record an interview in 1970, and which was by her friend, recorded by her friend John Maxtone Graham for his book. I can't remember the name of it now, but it will probably get back to me at some point. Yeah, so it's on YouTube now, so if you want to have a look, I will leave a link in the cards above and probably in the description box down below as well. So lifeboat number 4 is just being lowered slowly. It's just a bit hesitant from what you could see in the animation. And it does make you wonder, really, if it was a bit hesitant, because people were unsure if it was being lowered under like hesitation, really, rather than listening to orders. And a lot of people had mixed feelings about getting off the ship or not.
If you think about it, it's basically fear taking over their mind. Whenever there's a disaster on board, you gotta have a right mental head state. You gotta think yourself. You gotta assess the situation. Think, okay, what's going on? and just keep an ear out for any possible information.
And
this
here
is
we are.
Yep, this is lifeboat
So-
number 4 coming now.
Now we're gonna see another lifeboat. A lifeboat, I believe, 17, that was lowered on the port side gantry davit,
There it is, right
which
there.
had stopped lowering after seeing what happened to all the other lifeboats.
There is a reason why, though, because when that crew member happened to see the lifeboat get pulled in the ship's wake, he actually stopped lowering, and the occupants in that lifeboat started yelling at them. But by the time that boat got sucked in, they were the ones that said, "Yeah, that could have been us right there." But however, there's actually a very, very important figure. I think it was in that lifeboat, George Perman. When he saw that the boat was actually coming up to the propeller, he actually jumped up on a rope and had to hang on there. And basically, after the result of that, he actually had PTSD. You gotta remember, he was only 15 years old at the time. And he was the last Britannic survivor to die.
But then also in lifeboat number 4, from what you can see in the propeller, Violet records in her interview that she didn't really look that the lifeboat was actually near the propellers because her back was turned, and then too late when she saw it, after she saw people jumping in the water, she made a jump for it, and then she got sucked down underneath the propellers, and it was reported that she hit her head, but luckily her hair was tied in a bun, and she rose to the surface, and luckily she survived. But unfortunately, because of her head injury, now we don't know if she bashed her head either underneath the keel of the Britannic or on the propellers, though some people suggested it was a lifeboat. This is not actually true, even though that some people think Violet suggested it. But Violet didn't mention any of it because of her going underwater and her closing her eyes. We don't really know for certain what she hit. But later in life, she actually had a fractured skull, which caused her to have severe headaches, and all because of that brain injury. But then also in Lifeboat 17, and I know we've got a bit too far, but Lifeboat 17, that was a bit lowered, that was boarded by Nurse Ada Garland. And before they stopped to watch Lifeboat number 4 get sucked by the propellers, Lifeboat 17 stopped in mid-air because there was no plug to actually put in the lifeboat, so they had to stop to put the plug in before it was lowered again, and then it was stopped when they saw lifeboat number 4, and then it just got into the ocean safely. So a lot of events that went on through that time lapse, even though we just gone a little bit further out again. But there we go.
Yeah.
And
Awesome.
now at this point, I'm not sure if you saw it, but another lifeboat got lowered and caught in the ship's wake. But very shortly now, the propellers are going to come to a stop, and the ship is going to stop. And this lifeboat got so close to touching the propellers that they were able to push off the propellers with their own hands.
It does make you wonder, because even though she never confirmed which lifeboat she was in, another Britannic nurse and survivor, Sheila Macbeth, and her interview is also on the channel, so I will leave a link in the card above as well. But her lifeboat was nearly sucked into the propellers, but it was reported that she took an oar with a stoker and they rowed away from the propellers just in time. But even though she said in the interview she never confirmed which lifeboat number it was, it's possible that she could have been in this lifeboat because it would have made sense if she did. So finally, Captain Violet gives the order to lower the lifeboats.
And now here we're going to see one of the giant red crosses on board bow beginning to slip underneath.
I like the fact that you use the audio from the 1997 movie for the lifeboats cranking. And I just heard Officer Murdoch in there too.
Yes.
Oh, the audio from the Titanic movie. I did not notice that.
I was previously searching for other sound effects, but I just opted to use the 1997 sound effects.
Very sneaky, but I like it. Okay, so they're using the electric gantry davits. Now, the Titanic and the Olympic never had it, but the Britannic was the first ship that did have them, and they were installed possibly after the sinking of the Titanic. I'll definitely need to have a look at them because I haven't done some research on them yet.
Alright, now we're seeing steam from boiler room, I think 4, being released from the second funnel. Vent to boiler.
Now, is there any reason that this could have happened? Of the events in boiler room number 4?
Well, at the time of the... Usually before or during the boiler room's flooding, they would vent steam from the funnels. They were using the boiler rooms for as long as possible. Eventually, they would have to abandon the boiler rooms, and then they would vent steam from the boilers. If I'm incorrect, let me know. But I believe that's what happened.
We have to remember there's actually a valve pipe that's actually back behind the funnels that allows excess steam to vent out, just like what we saw with the Titanic. And I have a visitor.
Who's that? Is that Smokey or Cubby?
It's Cubby.
Hey, Cubby Bear! Now, Cubby and Smokey have been featured on the channel. They're DK's cats, really. But Cubby, he has been in the Titanic Honor and Glory live stream before earlier this year, and he was the one that gave a little... So I don't know if he's going to be meowing for us today. Shout out to Cubby!
And at this point, the forward starboard Red Cross is now entirely underwater, and water is slowly creeping up to the anchor room and nameplate.
And you can all see that the nameplate is nearly gone.
Basically
and yes, now we're gonna see the forward port gantry davit get jammed in place during a boat.
And it's still in position to this very day on the wreck site as well. The one thing I learned about ships, when their name touches the water, their identity basically belongs to the water. So it doesn't really matter if your ship is 882 feet like the Britannic or the Titanic's case. or 729 feet, which is the Edmund Fitzgerald, the water will claim the ship as theirs.
And I believe very soon, now that I believe all the lifeboats that have people in them, except for one lifeboat, have been lowered. I believe the captain give the order to start the engines up again and try and beach the ship one more time. And now we're starting to see water creep into the anchor room.
And if you know that the water's creeping into the anchor room, you're screwed. Well, not just that, really, and the fact that the portholes were being opened. But it would be interesting, though, because if all the portholes were closed while the Britannic was sinking, she could have actually stayed afloat longer. But because all the portholes were open, just like the Titanic, the Britannic sank faster.
I've actually talked to a few people, and they say that Britannic may have been able to be beached if the portholes were closed.
Hey, interesting.
Now, if they did...
And here we are. Now the ship is...
Now, if they did that, what would they do with the ship?
Okay, so the nameplate on the starboard side sinking, but then the number plate on the port side is still upright. But of course, we know it will disappear quite soon.
And I believe very soon, in the very forward part of the ship, we're going to see the shear strip touch the water.
Oh, that shot right there, that could easily be a thumbnail, because that's a really, really gorgeous animation, really.
Yeah, I believe I have a few shots set for the thumbnail. I'm still deciding which one I'm going to use.
It's definitely one of my favourites, but then there's another one that's my favourite as well, but this is definitely one of my favourite angles.
And at this point, the starboard side nameplate is going underwater.
And then the propellers are starting up again, as we can see, because the captain's going to try and make one last attempt to beach the ship as quickly as possible. But sadly, of course, we know this will never happen.
I don't know if you noticed, but you're going to see that the ship is going to get progressively slower as the propellers rise out.
Yeah, you can actually see it, really, because how many blades did the Britannic?
The Britannic has a set of 3 propellers, a quadruple center propeller, and the 2 outbound 3-wing propellers.
So probably one of those two of the wings, they're just up, and then there's the third one, or fourth one. No, third one actually, and that's still under the water, but then it will just rise higher into the air, which could be clearly visible.
And we have to remember this, that what's actually going on is basically called force flooding, which is basically taking a partially submerged ship like the Britannic and running it, which is basically adding in a intake of water as well.
And at this point, we're going to see water starting to creep into the forward areas on D-deck. Alright, now at this point, Britannic has overshot, and I believe the captain is going to try and turn the ship one more time with the helm. Kind of work. The rudder will slightly respond, but it'll still only slightly turn.
Just imagine taking a car with all four tires and the steering messed up and try to do something like that. It's just not gonna work.
Yeah, that's my other favourite angle on this, really.
I believe this is one of the angles that I'm planning on using in the thumbnail. Also, the angle that I've done the most renders with. And yes, here's what I was talking about earlier. If you look closely on bow, you can see shear strip is underwater in the forward areas.
When did Britannic had a shear line?
You can really imagine what was going through people's minds, really, those in the lifeboats. I mean, that must have been really shocking, especially those who are in the water as well. Because apart from the two lifeboats that were destroyed by the propellers, no more lives were lost.
And now we're gonna start to see water creeping onto the forecastle.
So as we can see now that the forecastle is starting to flood and it's become really noticeable as the water is creeping up to the bridge. The bow hasn't really gone under yet, but it's just about to.
At this point, if you were to look out from the very tip of the bow, I'd feel like you're standing on the front of a tiny yacht. And now we're starting to see water on the bow.
Yeah, already.
So it's 8:55 a.m. and the Britannic doesn't really have long left. So she's just about to enter the first early stages of the final plunge.
And I think the timestamps really gives an idea on how fast the ship sank. Because remember, the ship started sinking at 8:12 a.m. So not even an hour sinking.
And just about that time as well, Captain Bartlett is still on the bridge, and he realises now that he can't do any more because the ship can't beach near towards the eye of the Kia. So he's just about close to that point, really saying, "Okay, there's nothing more I can do. I've got to abandon ship somehow."
Yep. And very soon we're gonna see the ship come to a stop.
Right now, it's basically doing a 180 turn.
And yep, that's like what you said, Britannic has turned 180 degrees back to where she struck the mine.
Because in that sense, she pulled herself back.
At this point, the only thing powering Britannic is her central.
Imagine being up on the bridge and just having to see the water coming up the forecastle deck like that. To me, that's just my sign of saying, yeah, that's it. We're done. And the problem is, Captain Charles Bartlett did not have the designer or with him on board around the time, while yet Thomas Andrews was actually on the Titanic, and Thomas Andrews actually knew that the ship was going to sink anyway. As in the ship, we're talking about Titanic. He knew because he was on there. Britannic did not.
And at this point, propellers are still spinning, but there's nothing powering the ship. And I believe Captain Bartlett is going to give the order to abandon ship one more time very soon.
We're coming up to 9 a.m. now, and it's really close to the final plunge.
And now we're going to be seeing water on the A-deck promenade.
And the
last lifeboat to leave Britannic has just been launched.
And do we know which number it was?
I believe I could take a look at a map, but I don't know for certain right now.
Can you imagine actually seeing this right in front of your eyes? Like, can you imagine that?
And very shortly, actually I think right now, Captain Bartlett is going to swim off the bridgeway, the starboard bridgeway. And now there's nobody left on Britannia.
Yeah, because Violet Jessup actually witnessed seeing Captain Bartlett just swimming and stepping off / swimming off the Britannic, and she recalled saying how amusing it was to see him swimming into the sea with his pajamas on, and she thought it was quite funny.
And now we're going to see the bridge flooding.
Right from the wheelhouse.
Now we're gonna see water reach the base of the first funnel, but we're not. And that's just simply because if you take a look at most pictures of the you can see the first funnel very compared. And we're about to see the second funnel fall.
Luckily, it didn't affect anyone this time round, but if you had impact with a funnel, it can instantly kill you.
And now, only seconds after the second funnel, we're going to see the third funnel.
And there it goes.
Only the fourth one remaining now. And I believe the first funnel, it actually left the ship when it was underwater, when the bow was underwater.
The way that I kind of saw it from how the first funnel actually did came off was due to the impact with the bow hitting the seafloor, because we had to remember the Britannic did sink in 400 feet of water, and the ship was only 882 feet long. So basically when the bow did slam, I can imagine the force of the impact kind of knocked the first funnel off its foundations and settling on the floor as we speak today.
Very soon we're gonna see the fourth funnel collapse. There we go.
Hey, there it goes.
And any second now, the Britannic should hit the sea.
And we've got to bear in mind, though, it's shallow waters, isn't it? Because unlike the Titanic, where she sank in very, very deep ocean 2.5 miles down, the ocean bed within the Argentinian Sea is a little bit higher and it's warmer.
And from what I read on A Sea of Glass, and I actually did some research about the water temperature for the HMHS Britannic, if you were swimming in that Mediterranean Sea around that time frame, it was basically about 68 degrees Fahrenheit. So it's very much warmer compared to the Lusitania's and the Titanic's water temperatures.
And there we go, Britannic's completely gone now. And then by this point, though, help doesn't arrive until later, but only there are only no records that 4 boats actually made it to help the survivors of the Britannic. And some of them were naval cruisers, and that included the HMS Foxhound as one of them, and there are a few others I couldn't remember, but I know that the Britannic survivors did get help, and then afterwards they were travelling to a nearby destination for land where apparently, according to Ada Garland, they were served like warm drinks and tea, biscuits and sandwiches. Yeah, sandwiches, ham sandwiches. That's what she put in her diary. And then most of them stayed in Greece for months at a time, and some of them didn't get home until after Christmas. So some of them stayed behind to help at the nursing station. And then that was basically it, really. That was the story of the sinking of the Britannic. But
Also,
yeah, I mean,
the HMS Scourge happened to be one of the rescue ships.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah. Because I knew that there was going to be one I would always forget anyway.
Now you know.
Yeah, but we definitely got to give a huge round of applause to Tony, I think, because that was brilliantly done animation, and he's definitely worked very hard on it. So, Tony, you definitely deserve a round of applause, and thank you so much as well. You definitely put a lot of hard work into this, and I think it's going to be really, really great.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, and then that being said, really, we'll probably draw this video to a close right here. So I want to give, once again, a massive big thank you to Tony for the animation. And Tony has his own channel called T and Me. So if you want to have a look at his channel, and there are lots of more animations for what he's done, I will leave a link to his channel in the description box down below and in the card above as well. And then I will also include thank yous as well to the people who've helped Tony to do with the animation as well. And also a big thank you again to DK for coming on as well. But I know Jake, aka Mr. Britannic, our lovely Jake, couldn't be with us today, but I know he's with us in spirit at this time. But I think hopefully we did the Britannic justice for him today. I definitely hope that we did.
There wouldn't be a Britannic video without him.
Oh yeah, definitely. We've definitely, even though we did it, we wouldn't have made it possible if it weren't for Jake as well, really. But yeah, definitely, it was a really good recording session. And second time round, I definitely think we're lucky with this one. And until then, everybody, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I hope you take care of yourselves, stay safe, stay well, and catch you real soon. Take care. Bye.